You're here because you want to get a handle on a big event, cut through the noise, and really understand what's going on fast.
Exactly. And today we're looking at Burkina Faso, specifically President Ibrahim Traoré and his very direct reaction to something that happened.
Yeah, this reported incident with a government minister and a low-income cleaner.
That's the one. Reports say the minister publicly mocked her.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to really unpack that, go beyond just the headlines.
Right. What does it tell you, the listener, about leadership there? And what does it say about, the public mood?
Okay, let's get straight into it then. The core event, based on the sources, seems pretty clear.
Yeah.
A high-ranking minister disrespected a cleaner.
And crucially, it wasn't in private.
Yeah.
It was reportedly out in the open, public.
The details mention demeaning comments, maybe even laughter about her job.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds pretty unpleasant.
It does. And then there's this detail that, well, it seems to have blown things up.
What's that?
It was apparently caught on camera.
Ah, okay. That's often a game changer, isn't it? Having video evidence.
Totally. For you listening, think about it. It moves beyond he said, she said. It feels objective.
And probably explains why the online reaction was so, well, immediate and strong.
No doubt. It avoids that ambiguity. You see it, or you think you see it, clearly.
Right. So that leads us to President Traoré. How he's often painted in these sources is important context for you, right? As a sort of people's leader.
Yeah. Fighting corruption, standing up to elite arrogance. That's the image often presented.
So when this video or report surfaces, what does he do?
Well, the reports say he called an urgent meeting, like straight away.
Okay, that speed itself is interesting. What does that signal, do you think, compared to how these things might usually play out?
Well, typically you might expect, I don't know, a quieter investigation, something more bureaucratic, perhaps. So this immediate public-facing move, it reinforces that man of action, man of the people image, doesn't it?
It certainly makes a statement.
Yeah.
That this isn't going to be swept under the rug.
Precisely. And then what reportedly happened next was, well, quite something. The minister was apparently compelled, maybe forced is the word used, to apologize publicly.
Publicly, not just a quiet word.
No, in front of cameras, to the cleaner herself.
Wow. Okay, so making it a very visible act. What's the significance of that for you, the listener? Why do it so openly?
Well, it's performance, isn't it? It's a public demonstration. It shows accountability, or at least the appearance of it.
And sends a message to, well, everyone. The public, other officials.
Absolutely. Think about the impact on the cleaner, potentially validating her experience. And for other officials, it's a warning.
And I read some reports went even further. Something about making the minister do manual tasks.
Yes, some sources mention that Traoré might have required the minister to perform menial jobs himself, to teach him about the dignity of labor.
Now, whether that's entirely accurate or maybe slightly embellished in the retelling, the idea of it is powerful, isn't it?
Incredibly powerful optics. For you trying to understand the message, it's about inverting that power dynamic, saying no job is beneath respect.
And that disrespect has very tangible consequences, even for the powerful.
Exactly. And judging by the reaction, that message really resonated.
Yeah, let's talk about that reaction. Because the sources say social media just erupted.
Oh, completely. Hashtags like #JusticeForTheCleaner, #TradeThePeoplesPresident, they apparently started trending almost instantly. Twitter or X just lit up.
Yeah. So for you watching this unfold online, what does that speed tell us?
It shows how quickly a narrative can form, especially with that visual element. Traoré, the hero, the minister, the villain. It was immediate.
Which is powerful, but does it also maybe simplify things too quickly? Does that speed maybe drown out other viewpoints?
That's a really important question for you to consider, yeah.
Right.
Does that initial wave of emotion online capture the whole picture? Probably not.
And it wasn't just hashtags, right? There were memes.
Oh, yeah. Facebook reportedly saw a lot of memes, often those before and after types, contrasting the minister's perceived status before the incident.
With a situation afterwards. Kind of a visual takedown.
Exactly. And for you listening, memes are like this cultural digestion process. They simplify, they satirize, they spread a particular viewpoint very effectively.
They really embed an interpretation, don't they? And this wasn't just online anger. Reports mentioned actual cheering in the streets in Burkina Faso.
That real-world reaction is significant. It suggests this wasn't just a Twitter storm.
What does it point to, do you think?
Well, for you trying to gauge the feeling, it suggests this action tapped into something deep, a real frustration with maybe perceived arrogance from elites.
And this felt like a win, a moment of
A
justice.
sense of validation, perhaps? That someone was finally standing up for the ordinary person against that kind of behavior.
And then there's the political fallout. Reports say other politicians started distancing themselves from the minister.
Yeah, that's politically telling, isn't it? If colleagues are backing away.
What should you, the listener, read into that?
It shows they recognize the public mood. They see which way the wind is blowing and don't want to be associated with the negativity. It highlights how powerful that public reaction can be in shifting political dynamics.
Okay, let's pull back a bit. Why should this whole episode matter to you, the listener, beyond Burkina Faso? What's the bigger picture?
Well, one angle is this idea of symbolic justice.
Explain that a bit.
This incident, for you, becomes more than just about one minister and one cleaner. It acts as a potent symbol.
A symbol
Of holding power accountable, of saying that basic respect is non-negotiable, even for high-ranking officials. That resonates in a lot of places, you know?
Right. It taps into that universal desire to see fairness, to see elites held to the same standards, and perhaps connects to specific cultural expectations at Burkina Faso, too.
And then there's President Traoré's leadership style itself, put under the microscope here.
Yeah, this very public, confrontational approach.
Yeah.
Calling out one of his own team so dramatically. It's not exactly subtle.
No. So for you analyzing his leadership, it's just a focus on projecting strength, decisiveness.
And being seen to be aligned with the people, with popular feeling.
Definitely. But it does raise a question for you too, doesn't it? About the long-term viability of using public humiliation like this as a tool of governance. Is it sustainable?
That's a key point to think about. And we can't ignore the role of social media in driving all
It's
this.
absolutely central. The speed, the pressure.
So what does this tell you about how power and accountability work now in this digital age?
For you, it really highlights how these platforms function as like a real-time public opinion gauge, a pressure cooker almost.
And a tool for citizens to collectively demand action, forcing a response.
We see that pattern again and again globally. But of course, it's not all straightforward praise for Traoré's actions. Sources mention criticisms too.
Like what?
Well, some ask if the public shaming maybe went too far. Was it excessive?
That's a fair question for you to weigh up. Does the punishment fit the crime, so to speak? And does this method risk undermining, I don't know, due process or principles of justice in the longer run?
Exactly. And connected to that is the other criticism. Was this whole thing just a political stunt?
The question of motivation. How should you, the listener, approach that?
Well, politics is rarely simple, right? Actions often serve multiple purposes. So for you, it's worth considering. Could this also be about boosting Traoré's image, consolidating power, maybe distracting from other issues?
It's possible it's not just about justice for the cleaner.
It seldom is purely one thing in politics. But the counterargument, which you also need to consider, is the perceived need to publicly challenge that kind of arrogance when it happens. Sometimes symbolism is the point.
And what about the cleaner herself? From her perspective, what might this public action mean?
That's crucial. For you, thinking about her, this could be incredibly validating. A restoration of dignity.
For someone who likely feels ignored or disrespected by authority figures often?
Precisely. Seeing that disrespect have such public consequences, it challenges those old power dynamics. It says her dignity matters. Symbolically, at least.
So wrapping this up, as you reflect on this whole story from Burkina Faso, it really throws into sharp relief this complicated dance between power, public anger, accountability.
And how disrespect plays out so publicly now in our connected world.
Yeah. And it leaves you, the listener, with a pretty stark question to mull over, doesn't it?
Which is?
Was President Traoré's big, dramatic response driven primarily by a genuine desire for justice for that cleaner?
Or were there bigger, maybe more calculated political reasons behind it?
There probably isn't an easy yes or no answer for you there.
No, but wrestling with that question is how you get to a deeper understanding of what's really going on.
So if you want to explore further, digging into Burkina Faso's recent political history would definitely add context.
And also just looking more broadly at how social media is reshaping politics and accountability everywhere. It's a huge ongoing story.
Absolutely. So ultimately, for you, understanding this one quite specific event, it gives you a really valuable lens.
Yeah, a lens to watch how that relationship between leaders and the people they govern is changing right here, right now.